Hey guys, it's Jonny. Spain is a wonderful country to live in and to visit as well, and it's the reason why many people look at buying property in the country. However, though the process of buying property is not especially complicated here, there are some important things that you do need to keep in mind when you're buying. And so in this video, I'm going to cover 3 of these things that you must keep in mind when looking to buy a property in Spain. So, let's go right into the video. Now, when you start the process of buying the house, there's obviously the question of price which comes into question, and in some cases for some people also getting a mortgage to be able to finance the purchase of their property. And so when you are trying to determine the purchasing price or the conditions of your mortgage, do not be afraid to negotiate. This is something I wish I'd done a little bit more when I came to buy my home in Spain. I made an offer below the asking price, which was accepted immediately, giving me the impression that I could have possibly gone lower if I'd really wanted to. Additionally, I had 2 pending mortgage offers, and there was one which was more preferential than the other. However, I didn't use this more preferential offer to try and negotiate better conditions with the second offer, which is the one that I ended up going with. As this is the first house I've bought in my life, I will take it as a lesson and move on. But ultimately, that is going to cost me thousands of euros in higher interest because I didn't try and negotiate the rate down, and principal as well, whilst I'm paying off, the balance of the value of the property. So do not be afraid to negotiate. The second point is very important, as what we're going to talk about now is typically the biggest additional cost when it comes to buying the property, and also one of the most recurring frequent costs when it comes to owning the property, and that is taxes. Now I'm going to talk about 3 types of taxes here. First one is VAT or IVA as it's known in Spanish, and the second one, known as ITP in Spanish, is the tax that's paid on the transfer or sale of second-hand assets. Now, VAT for the sale of a property is 10%, and it only comes into play when you're buying a brand new property, either off-plan or, a property that's never been owned before and has been built by a developer. When it comes to ITP, it's a little bit different. You will typically pay somewhere between 6 and 11%, depending on which region of Spain you're in. And so as this tax is a considerable amount compared to the total price of the property, it's really important that you keep that budgeted in as well when you're factoring in closing costs and the total cost of buying a property in Spain. As a homeowner as well, don't forget that you'll have to pay your annual property tax, known as IBI, which is paid to the local town hall, also known as the ayuntamiento, every year. So it's important that you keep that in mind as well. And the third type of tax I'm going to discuss is the tax paid on rental income. Now, in the Spanish tax declaration, which I've done videos about, you've essentially got income that's broken into 2 groups. You have earned income from economic activities or work essentially, and you've got income from savings and investments. Now, the tax on savings and investment income ranges from 19 to 20% based on how much investment income you make in a particular tax year. What is important to note is that rental income from properties does not come in here and is not treated as investment income. It is treated as earned income. For someone who's not a Spanish tax resident and perhaps property income from Spanish properties is their only Spanish sourced income, then they're not going to notice too much of a difference. They may even pay less tax than they would if it was savings and investment income. However, someone who maybe has a lot of properties, or maybe someone who is based in Spain, they have a job and then have property income on top of that, that's all going to add up, and your property income, it can push you into those higher tax brackets and you'll end up paying more tax on those rental incomes as a result. So if you are investing in property in Spain, it is important to take this important tax consideration into account when doing your profitability calculations. And the last thing to keep in mind is related to the characteristics of the property and making sure that everything is legitimate, that it is safe, so that you don't essentially buy a poor quality property and that you don't get scammed. Stories of people who've bought non-compliant properties or even illegal properties that are not registered without them knowing, and then as a result they've lost their property or they've lost all of their investment as a result. Now, it doesn't have to be the case if you know what you're looking for. Now, the first place to start when you're looking at a property is to check the Referencia catastral, which in Spanish is basically a unique identifier for the property, which is in the Spanish property registry. So you can go into the catastral, you can search an address, and you can see all of the list of properties that are registered in there. And when doing so, you can see the characteristics such as the size, how old the building is, etc. Once you've determined that the property does indeed exist, the next thing to do is look for a copy of the what's known in Spanish as Nota simple, and it's basically a brief document describing again the property, giving you all the details, and it will tell you if there are any problems or issues such as debts owed against it, like a mortgage, like if there is a problem with the property and the owner or the previous owner hasn't paid. Importantly, in that document as well, it does tell you about the current ownership of that property, which is good to know as well, to make sure that, you know, the person selling you the property does indeed have the right to sell it on. Now, if you're getting a mortgage, or if you simply want to know what the property is really worth in comparison to what it's being listed at, you can book a surveyor to come round and do a valuation for you. These people are known as tasadores, and the process is known as tasación. There are a lot of companies out there that will do it for you, but probably the most important thing to look for is someone who is certified and recognized, in Spanish, homologado, by the Bank of Spain. Particularly if this is for a mortgage application, then banks will typically only accept tasaciones that have been done by someone who is certified by the Bank of Spain. And the tasación report as well, it will give you access to a lot of information. It'll tell you about the quality of materials used. It'll give you a detailed description of the property. It'll also tell you if it is habitable or not. But in addition to that, if a property is 50 years old or greater, then by law it has to undergo what's known as a technical inspection, or ITE in Spanish, every 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. So very important that if you're looking at an older property, make sure that you ask to see a copy of the Inspección Técnica as well, to make sure that there are no structural issues with the property. So there you go, guys. 3 important things to keep in mind during your property search in Spain. I hope these help you in finding your ideal property. Leave a comment and let me know, is there anything else you'd add to this list, and how has your experience been buying a property in Spain? So next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.